been to, your place, your audience, do slides, it's very cool. And my name is Oleksandr. I am an Ukrainian expat who lives in Poland now. I'm a full-stack JavaScript developer in data arts. In my free time, I'm working on my own projects, contribute in open source, speak on different conferences and meetups. And today I'm going to talk about backends, about backend in Node.js and about backends in Koa.js. So, I'm trying to keep agenda simple all the time, so I'll ask and answer 3 questions: what, why, and how. So, let's go ahead. First time when I came up to my team and said, guys, let's try Koa.js, they weren't that happy. They said, like, what are you trying to sell us? We already have Express, it works, we have experience with Express, why we should try something new? I said, well, guys, it's kind of project, official project from Express team. They say it's like it's a new generation of backend frameworks in Node. We should definitely try. You should definitely try that. Well, we started. We got some experience, bad and good either, but overall experience was good. In the middle of 2016, I was speaking at a conference about how cool Koa was, and today I'm going to talk about how cool it isn't. So, let's go ahead. 2 years ago, I had some expectations that Koa popularity is going to raise. You can see Google Trends. And actually, nothing has changed during the last 4 years. So, I can't see any progress, actually. And, well, we can say that overall progress and raise of Node.js application is bad, so like Express also still on the same level generally. But however, if we compare 3 of popular Node.js frameworks, we can see that actually Koa isn't in its best condition. And what does it mean for us? It means for us the size of communities. So the smaller people are using this technology, the smaller libraries we have, the worse quality of these libraries we have, and less answers for our questions we have. So I decided to check what we have with our repository in order to make sure that quality is acceptable, and you can see that, well, it's kind of dying. And however, I'm still here and I'm talking with you about Koa.js. So let's go ahead. Actually, what Koa is, guys, please raise your hands who worked with Express.js. Oh, pretty good. Do we have some people who work with Koa here? Okay. Isn't it bad? So actually Koa is just engine of middlewares with built-in web server. So if we compare it with Express, we can see that we don't have nothing for routing, no template engines, etc. Sorry, I just noticed the cursor. I'll get rid of it. Yeah. Oh yes. So it's just a template of middlewares. It has some web server, and that's it. It doesn't provide us any security features, it doesn't provide us any utilities, helpers, nothing. And actually, it's good from my perspective, because when I was looking for a new framework, I expected something like that. I like when tools are simple, then they do some single task, and I think it's good overall. So from architecture perspective, I think it's good. However, why can we choose Koa in 2018? Well, let's start from the beginning. It's quite basic, typical, and stupid task for technical interview for JavaScript developer, and it was created just to highlight how does the event loop work in JavaScript. So if you execute this code, we'll get the following sequence. So you'll get 1, 3, and 2 afterwards. Because event loop of JavaScript will push it to the end of the loop. So it's all about asynchronous actions, and we have more than it looks like at the first glance. We have requests, network requests. It might be some HTTP, it might be WebSocket, whatever. We have events which come from user, which come from our server. We have some input-output operations. We have operations with files, many of them, and all this stuff is asynchronous. So I guess many of us, probably even every of us, used to work with callbacks, and it doesn't look that bad when you have experience. It's just rigorous stuff. But here you can see the example of a command which changes owner of file. So we have some paths with some user ID, group ID, and callback. And when operation is finished, callback is gonna be executed. And the idea was that probably it makes sense to work a little bit differently, like this. And I was looking at those default node alternatives, FS alternatives for asynchronous operations, and I was thinking, wow, they aren't bad actually, you know, guys. Probably it makes sense to try them. So there are some options how we can handle asynchronous data. We can use callbacks, we can use promises, generators, async await, and observables. And actually, I guess first two are familiar for everyone. Observables weren't that developed when I was choosing Koa, and actually there is nothing developed now on backend to use observables. And actually, I had selection only with those two in order to solve spaghetti code issue. So I ended up with generators and async await. Async await wasn't supported in Koa 1. Koa 1 was working on generators. It has its own minuses, because if you are working with generators, you need to write your own functions which are going to be supported by generators, and it added lots of overhead. And when specification for async await was agreed, they agreed that we can await every promise. So basically every library which returns us a promise will work with await, which is very cool. Guys from Koa decided to roll out a second version which works on async await, and it was really great. It was the start point when I decided, well, yes, we finally tried Koa. So let's talk about async await. And actually, we have some promise here. So originally, our fetch is kind of default API for in browsers, like contemporary alternatives for XML HTTP request, which allows us to make requests, just simple GET request, and then we can make JSON out of the data, and we can log this JSON. If you are going to use async await, we'll get something like this. So you just await for fetch. I'm sorry, there is a little clause in brackets, but because of screen resolution, it doesn't fit. And we also have another await to resolve second then. So like here we have first then, second then. Here we go, first await, second await. But we write code line by line, as it was in some other languages. I'm sorry, I regret about it, but I have PHP background originally. And yes, it looks like code in PHP in some scale. And for some reasons, for some tasks, it might be easier to write code in such manner. So we decided to try. So, okay, we figured out what the approach of Koa, and I said it's middleware's engine. So what does it provide? It provides us context and callback. So every middleware is just a function. It accepts two arguments, context and callback. So basically, it looks like the same approach in Express.js. We have context, we have middlewares, just imagine these two squares are middlewares. And context is shared by reference. So we not pass context between middlewares each other. They are passed as reference. So we mutate context every time. There is no any problem with consistency of data because we have serverless execution of all middlewares. That's why all those middlewares are going to be executed one after each other. That's why usage of links to object instead of making some immutable state is okay for us, and it works. There is no any problems with that. So, how does our middleware architecture work? And first of all, as I mentioned, we have shared context. We have encapsulated request response. If you guys worked with Express middlewares, I mean, written some Express middleware, I probably can remember that in Express you had function which accepts 3 arguments: request, response, and next. Next is callback, request, and response, obviously request and response. Here we have just 2 arguments. First is context, which is a little bit extended version of united request and response. You can write whatever you want to the context without any hacks. So if you had some middleware, you can create any variable in context and pass it to the next variable, which is very useful, and I like that. You can also access this context out of the global object. So I mean, you created some new Koa, you got some object, you can access object.context, and you can write whatever you want there. But actually it's anti-pattern, so I suggest you use access only from middlewares. And also synchronous executions of all middlewares. So kind of default, but I guess it works perfectly and it does its simple task perfectly. So actually, how does the Koa application look like? So actually, you can see here just 6 lines of code, and it is a full-scale Koa.js application. I mean, it's gonna work. So for every request you have, it will return you hello Hanover, and it's simple as Express. So I mean, that you just create an instance from constructor, and you can use middlewares. So there is no default router. There is official plugin middleware, which is router, but out of the box, nothing. Of course, if you add another middleware here, it will not work because I didn't use next. So actually, correct middleware is gonna look like this one. And what is happening here? It's actually almost the same as here, but I changed those 2 lines. So, for example, we are waiting for something too much, and we cannot wait for that. We go to response. We set response as a body of our response, and I mean, as a body of HTTP response, and we do await for the next middleware. So in this way, we will save the consequence of executions. So again, middleware for Koa is just a function. It's a pure function and nothing else, and it's very good. So what do you need to care about if you're writing APIs with Koa, and why I strongly recommend you avoid using it if you don't want to write some custom code. You need to take care about concurrency, database, and HTTP. Let's go step by step. First of all, again, quality of libraries isn't that good. I found one library which I wanted to use in my project. I found that it isn't that good. I made a pull request to it in the middle of January, and nobody has even responded to the issue, and nobody reviewed the pull request. So, really, just be ready. You will write your own code. Library is not that good. So, at some point I decided, probably guys, I can use Express middlewares actually, because Express middleware is also kind of function and it accepts generally the same data, just different format of arguments. I ended up that there are really several solutions, like there is some plugin which allows you to wrap any Express middleware into a Koa middleware. I realized that actually it's very easy to port any middleware written for Express. Usually it takes about 10 minutes to port because you just change signature, you reduce coding of physical context, I mean different kinds of code, this, etc., etc. But quite easy to port any library. Yes, so basically the incompatibility is about arguments and format of objects we are getting inside the Koa middleware. And I repeat actually, again, that developers of these two frameworks are the same. So Koa was created by the same guys who created Express. Origination is the same. So performance actually is not about tools. It's about design, about software design actually. I just added this slide because my wife is designer. I want to.
It's perfect.
Yes. First of all, you need to care about databases. Koa provides you nothing about databases. You are going to use some libraries for databases. It doesn't matter actually which kind of DB you are going to use, but any default wipes for Mongo, for all the SQL family are working the same as it works in Express. The only difference that you can use any libraries which returns promises in this synchronous manner without any changes of this library. So any library for databases will work. Any library for file system integration will work, which is really cool. So just basic recommendation that use cache and optimize your database, take care about normalization, and everything should be fine. Just the same you need to care about in regular applications. So the next point is HTTP. I will repeat about cache because cache is a very important topic in Koa ecosystem. Handle complicated operations separately. I will talk about it also. And API optimizations, try to avoid repeating of data on different endpoints, try to avoid having useless endpoints. It actually doesn't matter what we are talking about now. For some reasons, GraphQL can help you. For some reasons, you don't need it. But I mean, there is no any direct relation to any kind of API, about any API literally. So I mentioned that you shouldn't do complicated operations in this simultaneously, and I'd like to talk about queues. Actually, it is an answer why you should use some kind of WebSockets when you don't have any chats, when you don't have any real-time functionality. For example, just imagine a case, you have some flight booking application. Your user made a request that, well, I want to fly, I don't know, to Reykjavik, and you need to make several requests to your third parties from your backends. Like, check, do you have flight from Hanover to Reykjavik? And most likely you don't. You need to make another request. Do I have this flight from closest cities? You can get an answer like, I don't. You need to check different dates. Probably you can find some city which is far away from you. You need to buy a ticket to this city and provide like complicated path. So I mean, it's quite a long operation, and it doesn't make sense to do all this operation during the last cycle of request response. You can notify your users that, okay, guy, it's a job. Please wait several seconds. Display him some pre-order, but unload your channel, unload your HTTP channel. It will save your resources. So just for example, here I can user requested some information about ticket. You placed his job in queries. You responded user that okay, we are working on it. You responded that here is your booking guy, and you responded another path, for example, that we have generated your PDF file here hidden broadly. So pretty simple. The same, for example, with services. If you convert some files, or for example, we tried to do some service to train neural networks, it doesn't make sense to respond all this data like right after request. It's pretty complicated job for several. It makes sense to use queues. So For which cases you can use queues? You can use queues for work with third-party APIs. You can use it for input-output operations, for databases. You can use it for sending emails because, for example, sending 2,000 emails isn't the simplest operation actually. So also I promised to say several words about caching because it's very important. Actually, I hope it should be easy, but for example, we can have several layers of cache, and actually, as more layers of cache you have, as better it is. And just imagine you have some API cache where you save requests to endpoints. For example, you have an endpoint which returns closest flights from some particular city, and it doesn't make sense to verify all this list every time user asks us. We can save this list and refresh it every 2 hours, for example. So we can cache this endpoint. Or, for example, some specific traces like, for example, Berlin, Amsterdam. People often verify such direction. It makes sense to use some cache for that. We can also cache some database requests. For example, user asked us about a ticket from Hanover to Reykjavik, but there is no direct, and we can check from Berlin to Reykjavik, and there is some ticket, and not ticket, I mean some roads, and it even was requested several minutes ago. Why we should make this request to database again? We can just return some information from our cache. So it really works, and it helped me a lot, and it's trivial, but helps. You know, when I'm working on a presentation, I'm leaving such to-dos. And I wanted to replace it, but I found it too very self-explanatory, so just it. The situation with caching in Koa is terrible. You should do everything on your own. There are no libraries which will help you, and we really suffered. We tried 2 times, and we suffered both. So be ready. And I'd like to talk about error handling also, because usually nobody cares. Like, it's not our business. We debugged our code with console logs, and now it's fine. It's pretty much fine. So, there are several recommendations from my experience with personal I use Morgan to cache all requests to databases, to APIs. I save all those caches in files. I use forever. It's a very nice library which allows me to revoke my library in case it died. For example, I got some critical exception. It died. I can resurrect it afterwards automatically. I shouldn't care about that. I will just get some notice in my logs that, well, there is some mistake. I can notify myself, for example, by email. But I mean, it will help you in some critical situation. Most likely, not most likely, nobody can predict anything. So it makes sense to have such an insurance. Also, there was a cool feature. It's called no domain. It is deprecated now. It was possible to place a whole process, not JS process, into kind of sandbox and debug it as in sandbox. It was really good. So, for example, you know that your error happened in some specific place of code. You can place it into the domain and debug this specific place of code. Luckily, we have some alternative solution. It's very popular because of Angular. Modern Angular, it's called Zone.js. And it allows us to do such sandboxes just without Node. With a third-party library, but it also works well and it solves its issue. And the last point I want to talk about is security, because we are often ignoring this topic. Actually, I'd like to remind you that Koa doesn't provide you any security features, so you need to care about that on your own. Personally, there is some list of hand-picked libraries I'm using, because there are actually many of them. And picking security libraries is kind of a responsible task. So I'm using following libraries. For CSRF, there is a library, official middleware for Koa. It does a job, and actually it's quite a simple task to do, so it has pretty nice quality. For password encryption, I'm using just a regular bcrypt, as for any library and backend, so there is no specific recommendation for Koa. For escape, and I'm using escape HTML, which is also quite good for input validation. You know, actually in most cases this one should help, but again, you can't predict anything. So I'm also using validator. For example, when I expect some email validated on frontend, I validate it on backend that yes, it's really email. If I'm expecting just a string, I won't use allow to save everything. Yeah, we validated its string without any prohibited characters, so something like that. Also, it's another important topic. It's headers, and I guess it's impossible to remember all those headers you need to care about. You know, every time you start a project, you need to remember, wow, I have 20 headers I need to think about. I need to add something. I need to remove something. So there is one library which does everything for you. It has some default configuration which is pretty secure. I strongly recommend you using it. It's called Helmet. You can easily wrap it into middleware, so 4 lines of code, and you have pretty much useful Koa middleware. And for audit, there is some interesting tool. It's called Node Security Project, and their console line instrument is called NSP, which analyzes the list of libraries you have and gives some resolution, like it is good, or you have some vulnerable libraries and it makes sense, or upgrade, or even change libraries. So it's pretty useful and simple approach to test your application. So I'd like to answer your questions if you have some. Okay.
I have one question regarding the cache problem. Isn't, for example, Redis suitable for that?
Yes, it's suitable, but all the functionality regarding interaction with Redis you write on your own. So there is no any prepared libraries for that.
Okay, so there's no adapter for Koa between Redis and Koa?
There is no universal adapter. There were some attempts to do something, but the biggest problem is that you write your own sequence of middlewares. That's why it's very hard to predict what and how you can cache. So it's very hard to find some universal solution, and because we don't have some universal approach, and Koa doesn't say how you should write your code, how you should use routers, because for example you can have different routers either, and you can't predict everything in your middleware. So I suggest looking at some like agnostic libraries for caching data in Redis and just adapting them for your own project.
Can I ask?
Yes.
So as far as I understood this whole talk, are you suggesting against using Koa?
I suggest using it if you are ready to fight against it. So, I mean, actually, if you have some experience and if you know how does it work, it's pretty good instrument. And even contributions in Koa aren't that active. It's pretty small tool. It just works because it does not provide you a lot of functionality. And I really like such approach because it is more secure. Because less code you have, less vulnerabilities you have. Yes, you can easily review sources of Koa. They aren't that bad. Aren't that big, I'm sorry, but aren't that bad either. And the same about bugs. As less code you have, as less bugs you have, it's less easier to test it. And actually, there is not so many problems with Koa. You can open list of issues, and there is nothing critical. So I wanted to contribute in Koa, just to become Koa contributor, but there is nothing serious to pick, just some suggestions and some like very edge cases. So it just works. I mean, you just need to be ready that you care about middlewares of your own, and probably you'll face some problems with libraries. But as an instrument, it's good, and in my home project, and now I'm using Koa. So against all that problems I mentioned in the beginning, it's still a good approach, and I picked it.
Is there still a reason to use Koa version 1?
There is no reason to use Koa 1. Unfortunately, there were some libraries written for Koa 1 which weren't ported to Koa 2. It's a big minus, and it is why in 2016 I started a project with Koa 1. However, I realized that programming with generators isn't that good, and I have to rewrite all libraries, particular libraries I'm using to be compatible with Koa. And there were like big segment of libraries like Koa MongoDB, Koa MySQL, Koa PostgreDB, etc., just like wrappers around default libraries in order to support generators. When they switched to async await, it became much easier because you can pick any library which support promises. That's why it got like a second life, and it became more reasonable to use Koa, because first version was pretty controversial.
As far as I remember, they always talked about version 2 and async await from the beginning on, isn't it?
I'm not sure what they were talking about, but version with async await was for a long time in beta state. So I remember when I was talking about Koa in 2016, version with async await was or beta or release candidate. I remember there was some questions about that. So, and the other question was that it was unclear the future of async await in ECMAScript specification, because originally there were talks about accepting it in ECMAScript 7, but with no luck, and only several iterations they got some common vision about async await. So that's why I guess this factor also slowed down development of async await version of Koa.
Do you know any major projects or libraries that use Koa?
You mean big ones?
Sorry?
You mean big production projects which use Koa?
I don't know which library, which higher level library might use it.
Okay, from existing projects I haven't investigated like which big projects probably use Koa. But about what we can use Koa for any application where you use Node.js for. So it's more about Node doesn't make sense to use Koa. It's more about the question, does it make sense to use Node at all in this project? Because from my perspective, it doesn't make sense to use Koa for some projects which are not interactive enough. For some projects where more than 25 people, for example, working on backends. Because there are some questions about how to organize code. There is also strict rules about how you need to write your codes. There is also strict good practices. Because Node.js system is very young compared to other popular backend ecosystems. And due to that graph from Google Trends I showed in the beginning, it doesn't look like the situation is gonna change soon. It looks like Node.js has taken its own niche and lives in there. There is no significant growth during the last years for Node.js projects. So summarizing, if you need to use Koa, if you're ready to use Node.js for your project, you can easily use Koa like any other framework. There is no specific differences between Koa and Express in terms of compatibility for some tasks or something like
that. Are there any advantages of Koa over Express.js despite performance and security?
Two advantages actually. First, Koa is lightweight. It's not the benefit of Koa only, because there are some other competitors which are also lightweight on the middleware engine without any other functionality. But apart from its size and its kind of, I don't know, single responsibility probably. Apart from that, it is possibility to write structured code, because if you have lots of interactions, async interactions, it helps. We really had situations where you need to ping several third parties, one after each other. It was case I was talking about flight booking, and we weren't using like one specific service to get all the data. We used different ones, and the biggest problem was that, okay, we made this request, we need to make not follow request if we got like the previous request was failed because there is no such roles or something like that. And if you are using callbacks, it isn't that, I can't say good, it isn't just so simple to read. So this approach, it really helps to handle lots of asynchronous operations in case of Koa. Okay guys, I guess that's it. Feel free to contact me. There is a website in the end. It just contains those links above because my surname is very complicated. There's any Slavic surname. That's why I just created this website. It just contains the links. Feel free to ping me.